Hi, I'm Daz. I'm the producer of The Drift, but I'm also the editor and sort of final compositor of all the visuals and the sounds and the visual effects that go into making The Drift. And a few months ago, I did a couple of diaries about how we edit and how we move things into packets and group it together and all that kind of stuff. But things have sort of moved on from there, and with a few things happening down in London, we've kind of accelerated a few areas so that we can sort of showcase some of The Drift to some people who might want to see it. People of influence, you could say. So we've been looking at one of the scenes in particular, one of the fight scenes or the attack scenes, and I don't think there's any great big secret to say that there's going to be a few bits of action going on in the movie, since that's what it's all about anyway. And what I've been getting the visual effects guys to do is sort of accelerate their efforts in this area for this particular scene. So I thought it'd be a good idea to sort of show you how we do that and what we use to enable that, because lots of different ways of doing visual effects and putting visual effects into films and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that the way that we do it is the best way, but it seems to be a quite successful way, and certainly a way that we are able to collaborate. So basically, all we do, if we go to the timeline here, we generally have the edit itself is this sort of bit down here. So this area here on the timeline is all the clips and all the sounds of the dialogue. Further down here, we've got this sort of bar here, which is the temporary sort of score, so the music. And then further down here, we would probably have the sort of sound effects, which we're just starting to sort of populate now. But so you've got sort of three sort of set areas on the sound, and then visually, so we have the normal sort of cut here, and then above that, what we've got is project files. What we use is After Effects, and you create a project file for each of the clips that you're going to apply a visual effect to. And with those, we then we name it in a certain way so that it refers to that visual effect shot. So, for example, this is scene 58 to 61, although 58 to 261 is all labelled within that segment as well. So there's, in fact, actually, if I show you at the top here, the very top, this top line is actually saying the scene number. So when it comes up on the screen, for example, so if I show you here, you may just be able to see that, but right at the very top there, it's just a very faint sort of scene number, which is 59. Actually, it's quite a good shot because down at the bottom here, we've actually got the title of the clip that's also being used, because this is going to have a visual effect applied to it. So it's important that we know what clip it is and we know what scene it's from, because when we name that visual effect, it's given a number, but it's also given a few other little sort of unique identifiers. So unique in terms of unique to the scene. So this will be scene 59. So this visual effect, in fact, I'll look it up. This visual effect is called so it'll be S059 for scene 59 dash V for visual effect 023. So and then after that, it has a date of when that effect was last changed, which currently stands at the 8th of October. And then the initials of the person who did it, which was Helen this time, in this case. So she currently owns, she was currently the last person to do anything with that particular visual effect, and this is an AEP file, so we know this is a project file for AE. So what that then, and she's actually generated all of those, nearly 1,000 in all, so she tells me I've seen about 890 so far, and there's a few more scenes to go, so yeah, it could easily be 1,000 visual effects to be applied. So basically, she'll create that file, and then we can then give that to somebody else, along with the clip that is going to be changed, and then they get that. They then do what they've been asked to do, and they send back just the project file, because all the project files are already in the timeline here, in the master edit. So ultimately, there's one of two things that could be done. One is that we can apply that effect straight away into that project file, which will start getting complicated. But what I like to do, and this is what we used to do before we had things like After Effects, we had much more primitive editing, a LambDV and a few other little bits of software, even just Premiere or other editing software that we used to have. What I like to have is basically to receive back a lossless video clip, and basically it sits on top physically. It would go on top of. So if I sort of reduce the size of that, this clip here, this is the clip. This is a visual effect, a file, the After Effects file. This is the clip underneath, which actually refers to that, is what it's of. And all I will do is basically, as the master editor, is put the lossless clip on top of that. And ultimately, when we go further down the edit chain, we'll start to get rid of these. We'll take them off, because lossless is very intensive for the computer to operate. Now, the good thing about that is that it segregates who's doing visual effects and who's editing. Because one of the problems we found is when you try and because you can actually sort of merge After Effects files in with clips and all that kind of thing. That's all great, but it's very difficult when you're working collaboratively and certainly over a distance. So we found that doing this method is great, that we can push out work because all we have to send out is the clip and the After Effects file, and all they have to return back is the After Effects file, which is great. After that, all I get back is a clip. So all the things to do is, so if I say, well, you know, the clip's too dark, or it's not enough lightning, or whatever, we can then go back to the After Effects file, redo that, and then send a new clip back to me. I'll delete the old one, put the new one in, and it just sits on top. And that's very effective, very good way, and a sort of like a final way, because the clip's there, it's just there, you can't see it, and I can't change it. I'm not going to be trying to change it or trying to start connecting my After Effects with Premiere and all this kind of stuff, and people sort of try to load stuff. It's all just insanely complicated. You know, it's nothing better than having just a real thing, clip, done, in, on the timeline, happy days. So that's sort of the next level. Another thing that to make life easier, because it's the visual projects are getting quite complicated now, as you can probably sort of see. You know, there's quite a lot there, quite a lot of stuff going on. Is to start looking at what's actually needed and what's not needed, because if it's not really needed, then we need to get rid of it, and that's a difficult decision sometimes as an editor, because we think once something's kind of sort of been got rid of, you can't go back. Well, you can go back because we have the video log, so we can actually look at it, and then we need to basically take the edit, make sure we're as happy with it as it can be, remove all the unnecessary clips, both in the bin, which is basically where all the clips just live, so you can look at them, and all the ones on the timeline that aren't actually used. Because some of them aren't actually used. Some of them are like under the other clip, like a backup. I'm not sure which clip I want to use. I've got to start making decisions now. I've got to start deciding what clip do you want as. And then, if I'm not happy with that, then I'll have to go back to an old. What I'll do is I'll go to an older edit where all the clips are still there. It's slower for the computer to operate. It makes the computer slow down. But just to look for something and find it, then I can go and put it into the new clip and replace it with the old one. So that's kind of the next stage as well. So yeah, I mean, that's quite a lot of stuff going on there. I don't know if that's all a bit of a ramble or whether you understand it or not. It is a bit complicated. But in a nutshell, this is all about workflow. This is all about basically having a plan of how you're going to work your visual effects, your clips, your sounds, and how you're going to do that collaboratively. Because that's the key thing here, is that if you're doing it by yourself, then that's fine, because you can name anything you like. You can put it where you want, it doesn't matter. As soon as you start involving other people, you have to operate at a sort of a common standard, so that everyone understands where things are, how things work, how you move data around, and who needs to know. And that is saving us a lot of pain. As I said, we've got nearly 1,000 visual effects to work on, and we've got 5,000 video clips to work with. So, you know, that's a lot of stuff to get lost and messed up if we don't do it carefully. So there we are. That's sort of our next stage, really, sort of adding visual effects to the edit.